They say love is blind, but inside this $5 million matchmaking cult, love is blindfolded, bound, and brainwashed. I spent 6 months inside this cult's private group and witnessed just how quickly people fall prey to spiritual predators in devious disguise. The controversial ringleaders use psychological seduction to indoctrinate the desperate with a hypnotic spell that will make you question where love ends and manipulation begins. Money may not buy you happiness, but for the right price, it can buy you love. I'm Kendra, your certified shit show connoisseur, a title I take very seriously. There are cults, and then there are cults on steroids. And this one is more juiced up than the Mr. Olympia locker room. Welcome to the Twin Flames universe, Cult of Love. Meet Jeff and Shaleia Ayan. If you are searching for love in all of the wrong places, you'll eventually find yourself in their unfortunate company. It's a bit of a buy one cult leader, get one free situation. But of course, if you ask them, they aren't cult leaders because this isn't a cult. Jeffrey Ayan was yeeted from his mother's womb April 5th, 1986, which happens to fall on the International Day of Consciousness, which I find hilariously ironic since he doesn't seem to have one. He professes himself to be the second coming of Christ, when at best, he's the Wish version of Greasy Jesus. That's right, folks. Christ has apparently returned, and this ain't his first rodeo, it's his second. Which is why he married Canadian Megan, or Shaleia as she likes to be called now. More like Shaleia. And she also a Virgo, sharing a September 14th birthday with hip-hop artist Nas, who's known for his song Money Is My Bitch, which is another gift of irony considering it happens to be Shaleia's daily affirmation. It makes sense why people would trust these two great value gurus with finding love because they have quite the love story themselves. According to their own retelling, Jeff brought out the big guns in 2012 when he left a comment under one of her photos saying, "You're weirdly sexy." If he was a spice, he would certainly be flowered. But being the linguistic pastry chef that she is, Shaleia slid into those self-rising DMs with the fateful question, "You horny?" Turns out he was, and they say romance is dead. Ladies, gays, and days, if you're gonna fall for something, I hope you faceplant right into love. But by God, please don't fall for another mediocre white man named Jeff. Why is it always a guy with a J name? Am I right? Before they started dating, Jeff spent most of his life in Michigan. He was heavily influenced by a few things that set him up for his success today: theater, Warren Buffett, and a science fiction series called Ender's Game. He loved the series so damn much that at one point he changed his first name to Ender. Imagine I love Hunger Games so much that I changed my whole last name from Kendra to Hunger. Actually, wait, that kind of describes me better than my actual government name. Speaking of hunger, Little Miss Shaleia spent her pre-Jeff era working at a Thai restaurant while operating a little side hustle as a psychic. Bet you didn't see that one coming. Jeff must have had his own fair share of psychic moments too, because in 2012 he tweeted, "Someone emailed me today saying I should start a cult. Free punch. Army Jungle Compound." Somebody certainly knows how to manifest, don't they? One thing about it, two things for sure. Grifter's gonna grift, and these two grape nuts ordered their grifts in bulk. Shaleia moved to Hawaii with Jeff, where they dabbled in various online business ventures, exploiting the misfortune of others, offering to cure ailments like headaches for $50, and for the low price of $15,000, your cancer could go bye-bye. And when his own childhood friend lost his mother to cancer, Jeff told him he was only sorry that he didn't have this special gift when he was younger, or he could have saved her life. Is it just me, or did his face just become 1,000 times more punchable? This business route didn't become as lucrative as their psychic powers might have predicted, so these off-brand Fruit Loops decided to move to the cereal capital of the world, which happens to also be Jeffrey's home state of Michigan. Fun fact, Michigan is also famously known for their Coney Island hot dog, and apparently the couple had that Oscar Mayer dog in them. According to a former roommate, there was a point where they deliberately ate 3 hot dog meals a day, every day. Sounds pretty rough to me, but bon appetit, I guess. With love on the brain, money on the mind, and a gleam in their eye, they put their prickly pineapple heads together. And in 2017, they conceived their best grift to date, which resulted in the birth of an extremely profitable love child, Twin Flames universe. The concept of twin flames is fairly common in the New Age spiritual community. But let's ask blitzed out Jesus for his definition. In 2017, Jeff told his followers, "A twin flame is your best friend in the entire universe. This person was designed for you by God, and you were designed for this person by God to be your eternal companion for all of eternity." Hell yeah, brother, who wouldn't want that? Jeff and Shaleia figured the only thing better than finding their own twin flame was making a metric fuck ton of cash, offering a 100% no cashback guarantee that through their program and online classes, and with their divine help, you will find your twin flame and ultimately enter into harmonious union. The pitch is posed as spiritual self-empowerment. Anyone can receive enlightenment and manifest their full desire, such as finding a twin flame or achieving career fulfillment with the right tools. You can absolutely do it, except you can't because you don't know how. Only they know how. Of course, they're super happy to share their God-given wisdom and help you ascend into love with a $9,000 tax-exempt paywall. Twin Flame students can access old video packages such as Dreams Coming True, Twin Flames Ascension School, and the Everything Package. According to my inside sources, the Everything Package doesn't actually include an everything bagel, but they do not take a rest from chasing that bread. So dumb. Students seeking love are asked to do a few simple things as they ascend. Jeff and Shaleia are now to be called Father Christ and Mother Christ, and are the only ones with a direct connection to spirit. And as such, students will follow their directives, no questions asked, even if they end up in jail. They will also pay thousands of dollars to stay in the Ayan's favor, recruit other vulnerable people, and cut off anyone who doesn't support the extreme commitment or happens to ask the wrong questions. Students will provide hundreds of hours of free labor, keep up with the homework assignments, and be willing to change their entire gender identity if instructed to do so. I beg your finest pardon. I'll do just about anything for love, but I won't be doing that. While I was balls deep in the Twin Flames private group, two terms kept being thrown around, more than a plastic bag in a Katy Perry song: the mind alignment process, or MAP, and the mirror exercise. And this is what took me from notably nauseous to full-blown furious. Close your eyes and think of something that's bothering you. Now blame yourself. Congratulations, you just perfectly mastered your first mirror exercise. It's supposed to promote introspection and responsibility, bringing your dream life into full manifestation in the 3D world. But in actuality, it's psychological manipulation simplified. It deliberately targets a person's ability to critically think, warping their reality, requiring them to question every thought they have. They eventually feel incapable and unworthy to make decisions without consulting leadership. And when people feel unworthy, they become extremely susceptible to indoctrination. Here's an insider example from the group. Rather than saying, "It's shitty my twin flame filed a restraining order against me," you would reframe it as, "I put a restraining order on myself." And this group knows all about restraining orders, as you'll find out. If you look straight ahead, you'll see one of humankind's biggest shit piles in his natural habitat. Please don't get too close or make direct eye contact with this particular predator. Although this species is not endangered, he places the people around him in danger. Former members have spoken about being coached to stalk and harass their twin flame by Jeff and Shaleia, which ultimately cost some people their careers, relationships, and even led to a criminal record. Many members have restraining orders in place and went to jail for violating them, but Jeff still encouraged students to continue escalating the situation, saying a restraining order was just an illusion. According to him, your twin flame pushing you away is actually a bid for love, and any rejection towards you is actually your fault for sucking at the spiritual work. So try sucking less next time. Don't you just love the smell of gaslighting first thing in the morning? Jeff's $1,000 love advice is to be honey badgers of love. Quote, "I don't give a fuck. I'm going to love you no matter what." Did this human equivalent of the moldy crumbs between two couch cushions really just say, "Fuck consent"? This man could piss off a Happy Meal. Just for the record, anyone that treats consent like a fun little challenge is a dangerous person and a threat to our entire society. No has never meant try harder, not even once. Going balls to the wall is the name of the game, and being in relentless pursuit of your man or woman is expected at TFU. So by that illogical logic, a restraining order is worn like a badge of honor. Students who don't accept that attitude are berated and literally called a twin flames pussy, which is exactly what I would expect to hear from a person who looks like he smells of old taco meat and Swisher sweets. All the great grifters understand that maximizing your profit potential boils down to the diversification of your clusterfuck portfolio. And Jeff and Shaleia are firm believers in diversification. Kind of. 80 to 90% of their followers are women, which presents a bit of a problem when they're promising to find a bunch of straight women their twin flame. Some women join TFU with a partner or a person in mind they believe to be their twin flame. And for a while, Jeff and Shaleia would agree and encourage the woman to go get her man. Oftentimes, the man didn't want to get got, and when they wouldn't give in and ended up marrying another person or filing one too many restraining orders, Mother and Father Christ balls were forced to recalibrate. The Lord works in mysterious ways, and it certainly was mysterious when they started receiving channeled messages from the spirit world telling them that certain relationship matches outside of their group were, quote, false twin flames. The phrase false twin flame is thrown around every time a relationship doesn't end in a harmonious union, even the ones they did sign off on. On rare occasions, the couple would misinterpret a twin flame match during a channeling and have to tell the student, "You know that person that you've been harassing because we told you you were a twin flame's pussy if you didn't?" Turns out that was actually a false twin flame. But this person who just paid us $7,000 to find their twin flame just so happens to be your real twin flame. So congratulations, it all worked out. You're welcome. Apparently some members weren't on board with this type of revelation, but consent isn't Jeff's cup of tea, so he continued handing out hostile directives. In class recordings, you can hear him screaming and humiliating students who don't comply with complete obedience, because to deny Jeff and Shaleia's word is to deny the word of God. In fact, Shaleia posted the guru-disciple relationship agreement for members to sign, which states they're to give her and Jeff unconditional obedience without resistance. Don't worry, guys, Jeff said this isn't a cult. And to drive that point home, he assigned homework to students, which involved them watching cult documentaries like The Vow, then write an essay describing how he definitely isn't a cult leader. It's kind of like the Golden State Killer assigning homework to the jury to watch true crime documentaries and then expecting to still be found innocent. How that's an effective exercise for the point he's trying to prove, no one really knows. Pretty ridiculous, but on brand for someone who behaves like a grandiose narcissist, which isn't a diagnosis, but rather an observation I can't ignore. I also couldn't ignore this hilariously narcissistic piece he published titled 10 Signs You're in a Luciferian System. This manifesto of malarkey is the perfect example of what a grown man throwing a temper tantrum looks like. He just can't handle people not agreeing with his brainwashing bullshit. If you listen closely, you'll practically hear his mental breakdown in real time. Since his emotional capacity is so massively diminished, calling people slaves to Lucifer is the only way he knows how to express his disdain for critical thinking. If you don't believe me, if you still don't believe me. But then he really nailed it with number 3. If you don't take what I'm saying seriously. Guilty. I honestly don't know how he expects me to take any of this seriously, but I guess that means I'm just a little puppet of Satan. The lunacy continues, but I'll post the rest on Patreon because it's actually hysterical to read. TFU promotes having sex. Tons and tons of sex. Unlike a lot of cults, you don't have to be married to do it, which is super progressive. You can find a ton of videos from Jeff and Shaleia where they won't shut the fuck up about how much sex they have, but it seriously seared my retinas, so avoid it at all costs if you can. They preach that the sexuals between twin flames is incredibly intense and passionate, and beyond anything that you could possibly experience with someone you're not in harmonious union with. Father Christ might have said it best in his unintelligent words, sex with your twin flame is ridiculously good. How good, Jeffrey? So good that sex with anyone else doesn't really count? According to Jeff math, if two masculines are having sex, it's really like shaking hands, because that isn't your twin flame anyway. Yes, that's an actual quote. Methinks Jeff is justifying bumping uglies with another fella. Because of this perceived intensity, students are taught that their twin flame may actually act more irrational than some boring-ass person in a healthy relationship. In another recorded video that's pretty upsetting to watch, a female student went to them questioning her not-so-harmonious union after her partner physically assaulted her, among other horrific things. Did Jeff and Shaleia do the right thing by telling her to ditch him and seek safety? No, that's what a decent person would do. What they did do is listen to this victimized woman's cry for help, then use their infected pie holes to say that her partner was simply asserting his passion and love for her, apparently through domestic violence, and she should increase her mirror work by reframing "my partner is abusing me because he hates me" to "I am abusing me because I hate myself." Hey dickheads, Walmart is running a sale right now. Buy one, get one free on fucking All the Way Off, and I saved the last 2 just for you. Around 2020, Jeff and Shaleia grew quite weary of paying taxes on all of the money they worked so hard to take from people, and they also didn't feel great about having to pay students to do the grunt work they didn't want to do themselves. According to Jeff, if you really had the fire of Christ in you, you would do everything in your power to share it. Christ always comes in clutch. According to their former CEO, who appeared in the documentary Escaping Twin Flames, the Ayans enlisted her free labor to research the best way to structure their business to pay the least amount of taxes as humanly possible. I wonder if H&R Block will let me deduct all of my time that these two have wasted from my taxes. In a 2 birds, 1 stone maneuver, the Ayans opened the Church of Union, which takes care of the tax problem and allows them to exploit the labor of members by listing them as volunteers. It's giving Scientology. It's giving NXIVM. It's giving undercover cult. Of course, he already called himself Christ, but adding another religious power trip into his repertoire only reinforced the most insufferable aspects of Jeff's narcissism and egomania, which put him on the evolutionary fast track to becoming an even bigger Cuntosaurus Rex. You let them shenan once, they're gonna shenan again, and now armed with a tax-exempt status, the Ayans were off to the races. Transitioning into an official religious sect opened an opportunity for a true sacrilegious shenanigan. It turns out that the diversity at TFU wasn't exactly diversifying as advertised, and after years of being in the group and not finding their twin flame, some members became restless. Finding Harmonious Union, after all, had been guaranteed. This pair of numbnuts decided that in order to be in true Harmonious Union, people must fall into one of two categories: divine masculine or divine feminine. Of course, they immediately monetized on this concept with a course titled Divine Feminine, Divine Masculine. The course teaches students to accept the gender they should be. And who knows what gender you should be more than you? Timu Jeff, of course. He sealed his spot in Satan's circle when he started forcing gender transitions. On the surface, they market TFU as a welcoming community of inclusion, but below is an odious undertow driving their misogynistic and conservative narrative forward. Nothing is more classically conservative than the belief that there is only man and woman. You know, Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve. But with a 90% female demographic within TFU, the twin flame matches weren't gonna match themselves. At least not fast enough to profit from, and not in ways that would fit into their bullshit box. Modern problems require modern solutions. And Jeff and Shaleia's solution turned out to be a reverse conversion camp for the LGBTQ+ community. In a surprising twist, these honey bunches of Nope channeled a shocking revelation. There were twin flame unions right in their student base. Straight women enrolled at TFU were suddenly paired with other straight women within the program. But remember, in a harmonious union, there's only room for one divine feminine, not two, which meant one of them had to assume the masculine, no matter how much they actually disagreed. They didn't get to decide. Jeff did. Regardless, many women ended up following Father and Mother Christ's orders. They cut their hair, ditched female-presenting clothes for a masculine wardrobe, stopped wearing makeup, and were forced to change their name to something Jeff approved of as masculine. One student expressed her discomfort in doing so, but Jeff is a firm believer in negotiating consent, instead of accepting that no is a complete sentence. So he continued to call them a male name and use male pronouns until she eventually transitioned. In fact, multiple students ended up completely transitioning through medical procedures and hormone therapy, which is great when it's their own decision, but not when they're pressured and coerced by someone else. In a video that made me want to bathe in bleach, Jeff asks a woman who he's forced to transition if she ever looks at him and it makes her want to be more masculine, like him. Bro is more full of himself than a Russian nesting doll. He advises the women forced to transition that they should look up to him as the ultimate example of masculinity. Observe him, and you will see what a man should look like. Jeffrey, please. In a world where you can literally be anything, why don't you try being so fucking for real right now? Once cosmically ordained pairs are made, they're expected to move at the speed of Usain Bolt. The majority of divine pairs the Ayans give themselves credit for move in together after days or even weeks, but an alarming amount have even followed a reckless pattern of moving across the world to live and marry a partner they barely know. Pretty sus that all of these couples didn't find out until way later that they were actually matches, but swiftly achieved harmonious union and were quickly married in the Ayans church. Knick-knack paddywhack, leave these folks alone! The curriculum at TFU teaches that in order to remain in harmonious union with the divine masculine, a divine feminine must have sex with him at least once a day, even if she doesn't want to. In case that wasn't crystal clear, it's rape they're promoting. Women are pressured into giving men unrestricted access to their bodies. Otherwise, they risk falling out of harmonious union. Per usual, women are at fault because patriarchy. On more than one videoed occasion, Jeff laughs with students about how he's coerced and forced Shaleia into having sex with him. It's marital rape. Brace yourselves for another concerning thing that I failed to mention. Jeff and Shaleia procreated. They frequently post their 1-year-old daughter Grace, so nothing I share about her is private information, but it's disturbing nonetheless. Obviously, I think her parents are incredibly selfish, awful, disgusting people incapable of providing the emotional and mental stability any child needs and deserves, and her slimy sperm donor has demonstrated very clearly a sheer lack of respect towards boundaries and consent. He doesn't respect any woman in any capacity, and men who don't respect women are not safe people for little girls to be around. Shaleia doubles down on his suffocating misogyny and makes sacrilegious jokes about banging the Messiah, which certainly doesn't help her case. Neither of them can comprehend what consent means, but numbers are also really hard. When baby Grace arrived, the couple announced she was actually their third twin flame, which kind of defeats the purpose of twins, does it not? Anyway, that's the least concerning part. Referring to themselves as Mother Christ and Father Christ, they also graced their daughter with her own weird-ass title, the Princess of Creation. The union was now complete. Apparently, the Princess of Creation is here on a mission, and that mission requires her to remain celibate for life, which is a super creepy thing to say about a baby, but Jeff found a way to make it even creepier because of course he did. He stated in no uncertain terms that baby Grace is required to remain celibate for life, unless she has sex with God. And, who's God? Yep. Yeah, he is. This supersized sleazebag has also made concerning comments about wanting to start a compound on a ranch in Michigan for his followers. And with the twisted stance he already has towards sex and control, I have to wonder if this is another Waco wacko in the making. You'd be hard-pressed to name a better marketing tool than a real-life success story. And being the biggest tool of all, Jeff rides that strategy all the way to the bank. He has a business degree, and he's not afraid to use it. Once members spend thousands of dollars and finally reach Harmonious Union, or they're otherwise gaslit into it, students become eligible to receive special powers, which take on the shape of a triangle, which some people might call a pyramid, or an MLM. TFU enlists the couples in Harmonious Union to be designated ascension coaches for the flameless followers, but they don't get automatically promoted into that coveted position. No. They gotta earn it, and you wanna know how? By spending a shitload of money on ascension coaching classes. Once they've earned a Canva Pro certificate of achievement, they're blessed with more responsibilities that don't come with compensation. These two audacious twat waffles expect coaches to bring in $60,000 of product sales per month, which I'm told has never been achieved. The 10% that coaches receive from making sales is often garnished by the Ayans up to 50%. Ascension coaches are strongly encouraged to start TFU side hustles, labeling themselves as lifestyle gurus and experts. They saturate online groups with coaching and recruiting, and of course, every penny is funneled right back into the greedy palms of generic Jared Leto. In order to keep up with the demand and expectations of marketing and sales for TFU, many students can't work jobs outside of the company, nor do they have supplemental income. So they become financially reliant on TFU for survival, which is no doubt by design. When students express financial hardship or inability to purchase more classes, they're demoted from positions they've paid to achieve and are shamed for having a, quote, poverty mindset. I'm certainly poverty-stricken with the amount of fucks I have left to give these dirtbags. If students are unable to live a life of luxury like mommy and daddy Antichrist, it's only because they're choosing a life of separation from God's group, and back to the mirror they go. I'm not a betting woman, but if I was, I'd wager that greed and shame are Jeff and Shaleia's favorite flavor of shit suckers. You know what I'm craving right now? A break from this bullshit. While you sneak a snack or take a tinkle, consider giving this video a thumbs up and joining my anti-cult club on Patreon to get early access on videos like this. Or if you want bonus points, you can do both. Either way, only do what you're comfortable doing because consent matters. Here's a little Twin Flames trivia for you. Did y'all know Ryan Gosling had to file a restraining order against a stalker who claimed she was his twin flame? True story. She relentlessly sent letters and packages to his house, but when he wasn't easily convinced that he should leave his wife, you know, Eva Mendes, this bitch named Grace, what a coincidence, flew across the country, showed up at his house, and introduced herself to his security team as the other half of his soul. Then he had to get a temporary restraining order for the rest of his family because this crazy bitch sent a note to his sister that said she was going to kick her brother's head. Looks like this gaggle of Canadian goslings attracted a real quack queen. Since I'm feeling like a silly goose, let's gander back to the mountain of bullshit that's been piling up. Twin Flame seems to collect more shit nuggets than a porta potty at a chili cook-off. Of course, the turds at the top of TFU Mountain think that their hot shit doesn't stink. There's no denying that the putrid steam pouring from the pores of every Twin Flames program could absolutely gag a maggot. But the fumes from the mind alignment process are somehow more foul in ethics than they are in odor. According to Vanity Fair, Twin Flames Universe is a business as much as it is a belief system, and I could not agree more. Do you have trauma? Of course you do. Now, through TFU's MAP program, and absolutely no one else's, living permanently trauma-free is 100% possible. If your life isn't currently worth living, we can change that in minutes. For a limited time only and a $1,500 non-refundable swipe of any major credit card, you can permanently erase a lifetime of trauma and PTSD in just 3 easy steps. 1 consultation, 1 MAP session, and 12 aftercare sessions. Did I mention it's permanent? Well, more semi-permanent than permanent because results only last up to 12 months. You gotta re-up on that $1,500 trauma healing on an annual basis. This one-size-fits-all trauma approach will absolutely work. They guarantee it. I mean, it's rather easy to guarantee 100% success at anything when you maintain 100% control of the narrative. Starting on day 1 with the mirror exercise, students have been primed to blame themselves for literally everything, including unhealed trauma. So in the very off chance that the MAP program doesn't take, it's not the program's fault, it's yours. And back to square one with the mirror you go. It's pretty clear at this point that Jeff and Shaleia are not certified qualified therapists, yet they claim the pseudo therapy offered through their MAP program will successfully heal all PTSD and trauma related to war, childhood, or anything in between. Now, veterans of war didn't really fit into the TFU demographic. That was until they brought on a retired Army lieutenant as the MAP CEO. I was pleasantly surprised to see that she carries a PhD, but don't get giddy because it's a PhD in public safety leadership, not psychology, not anything related to physical or mental health, public safety. Loomis Christie claims that the PTSD she received during her Army days was miraculously healed in just 1 MAP session over Zoom. Can you believe it? In her own words, MAP is a new healing modality for trauma and is done by discussing a traumatic flashback and moving through it. So, like cognitive therapy? The same type of cognitive therapy often used by veterans and military personnel to treat PTSD and trauma, and just so happens to have a 12-session framework like MAP's aftercare? Christine, say it isn't so. One small difference though, the cognitive therapy sessions prescribed to veterans are exclusively provided by, how do I say this? Qualified therapists. So I guess that's why you can't legally call what you're doing cognitive therapy. Isn't that right, Christine? I'm just super curious to know how one can expertly access trauma when one isn't an expert at trauma accessing. It's becoming increasingly difficult to find a single note of sound logic in this idea that a man who clearly stays higher than Shaq on his tippy toes and has the allure of tepid hot dog water managed to invent a groundbreaking scientific technique that not a single other mental health professional in the entire history of our world has managed to figure out. I'm catching notes of delusion and cognitive dissonance. If the claims were true and they could successfully heal trauma as quick, easy, and permanently as they claim, the demand would eventually dry up. So to maintain it, they gotta do what they gotta do, and they gotta inflict more trauma. It's actually a common business strategy you can find in chapter 1 of Starting a Cult for Dummies, right next to how to create a market demand to systemically fuck really good people out of hard-earned money because that's the American dream, and as a white man, you deserve it. TFU firmly believes in taking all of your money, credentials be damned. Jeff, Shaleia, and now this third chum bucket are exploiting severe trauma, offering $1,500 healing of said trauma, then immediately contributing to the endless cycle of abuse with, you guessed it, more trauma. The risk of inflicting further damage on someone's mental health is a risk they are absolutely willing to take. Listen to this shit. During an online meeting recorded by Jeff, he gives coaches clear instructions to join online support groups for people suffering with PTSD, fibromyalgia, and basically anywhere people are desperate for healing and comfort. Then he says to swoop in with a cure for the pain and suffering, which of course refers to paying Greasy Jesus, his safety sidekick, and the Canadian She-Christ an assload of money. Why don't we just call them hefties since they want to be the trash bag trinity so bad? Since we're already talking trash, TFU continues to expand its grimy reach into bizarre niche categories, which include culinary arts and gaming design. Divine Dish is a meal plan for members, but for some weird reason, they aren't really advertising its TFU affiliation publicly. Notice I said it's a meal plan and not a nutrition plan, and that's for 2 reasons. Number 1, they don't actually employ nutritionists, and number 2, it isn't nutritious. They have hired one, Chef Josh, to type up these $129 monthly plans. The website presents itself as God-conscious food, whatever the French fried fuck that means. Supposedly, this glorified grocery list will deepen your relationship with food, and you will only ever feel physically and emotionally fulfilled by it. Now that I can believe, since the meals are designed to be extremely carb-heavy and filled with red meat, and they want you to feel full and heavy so you can remain present in your body. Oh, they're cooking up something all right, and it's a crock of horse shit. In the documentary, a former member talks about how this diet made her her gain 70 pounds in 7 months. But she wasn't the only one in bulking season. In fact, it caused just about everyone to gain weight, and some people even developed diabetes or other health issues. They claim Divine Dish will fulfill you emotionally, meaning they want members to quite literally eat their feelings. Controlling the aspect of food is such a classic cult tactic. Sometimes it's food restriction, and sometimes it's the overconsumption of food, just like this. If they were a cult, which of course they aren't, I'd suspect that this type of diet is meant to keep members fat and unhappy with themselves. This type of diet can make people prone to depression, anxiety, and other mental health issues on top of the ongoing psychological breakdown that's already in motion. Here's some good news. If you do happen to develop any of these things, you can find healing in one $1,500 MAP session. And since we're talking about MAP again, Chef is also a MAP practitioner, and he's married to Lieutenant Christie. Isn't that just cute? If they ever start a channel together, I think they should title it Food for Our Unqualified Thoughts, but they probably want something a little more marketable, like Therapasta, TM. Divine Gaming seems to be the one aspect of Twin Flames that actually has someone qualified for the job at hand. It's just a real big bummer that it's not a job that's directly impacting the mental or physical well-being of students, but beggars cannot be choosers. You'll see 3 people shown on the gaming website. Mr. Attention Whore himself, along with another couple. The woman is listed as the CEO, and she's the only one who holds a relevant degree in computer science with experience in software development. Pray tell why the fuck Alexandria has to share the spotlight and photo with her husband when it says right there she is leading the company and all he does is play games. And before you say it's about a team approach or showing the Twin Flames union, it can't possibly be that, or Shaleia would be in Jeff's photo, and she certainly is not. Therefore, I must conclude once more that the misogynistic blood of the patriarchy is pulsing through every vein of the TFU cultiverse. I rest my case, but I certainly won't be resting. It's remarkable how the most unremarkable people pull off successful money schemes every single day, and they're doing it boldly in the name of Jesus. Although if you really think about it, a lot of religious institutions are doing that every single day. Realistically speaking, every church out there started out just like this one, with critics and naysayers, but with enough time, money, and persuasion, they become as common as a Dollar General in a Midwest town. You know what they say about the truth. It will set you free, but first it's gonna hurt like a bitch. People don't join cults. They join community and causes. People who join them aren't stupid or uneducated. They're targeted deliberately and indoctrinated slowly. People join Twin Flames universe hoping to find a community filled with really good people and an instant support system. And that's exactly what they find. People there don't make them feel crazy for wanting a fiery Twin Flame connection. In fact, they comprehend it on a very personal level. Love is the tie that binds them all together. Members in high control groups can't just leave with the same ease people use to pass judgment. So maybe it's time to stop assuming they can. Choosing to leave doesn't just boil down to the loss of time or money. Leaving would also require them to completely abandon some of the most important people in their lives, really special people who've been their family for years, and have treated them with more love and acceptance than their own family of origin. Leaving isn't just walking away. Leaving is an invisible death. So maybe getting kicked in the teeth every now and then seems like a better alternative than being sentenced to a lifetime of grief. The power of persuasion is a power, all right, and it would be real fucking cool if people could channel it into doing good shit instead of evil shit for like 5 minutes. Jeff and Shaleia say they achieved the American dream by being close to God. Therefore, quote, all of our money represents how many people we've helped. I hate to pull an Oscar Martinez on you guys, but actually, it represents all of the people they successfully scammed by leveraging love and monetizing loneliness. But perhaps that's always been their twisted idea of the American dream. Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the biggest shit dick of all? I bet it's the people who achieve wealth by stepping on the necks of those desperately craving love, while they flex luxury brands in luxury cars, fully aware that their followers are plunging towards bankruptcy, and somehow they still lay down at night in their $850,000 lakefront home and sleep peacefully. On some real talk, there's not a single one of us that hasn't been persuaded by something out there that's ended up being a tiny bit sketch, myself included. Yeah, I was an Herbalife girly for like 4 days. I'm so sorry. So let's judge a little less, love a little more, and live, laugh, leave a cult. If you enjoy screaming into the void with stories like this, my video on the Demon Slayer cult provides plenty of that. Be sure to scroll through the Culture Shock playlist to see any other debauchery you might have missed. And for the love of God, stop trusting mediocre white men named Jeff claiming to be Christ, or any other mediocre human for that matter.